Thanks very much, Presiding Officer, for letting me in this very important debate. And thanks, Bill, for bringing forward this debate for us to consider today. Presiding Officer, the notion that someone who has taken a life deserves the loss of their own life would seem to be a fair balance of justice. However, over my lifetime, from time of capital punishment to no death penalty for murder, I have witnessed miscarriage of justice that proves the opposite of quid pro quo. One of the most harrowing outcomes that shatters the myth of fair justice was the case of Stefan Kicsko, who was arrested and found guilty of rape and murder of a 12-year-old child. Mr. Kicsko was 23 when this crime was carried out, and I remember well the case, and I was mightily relieved that the courts had jailed Mr. Kicsko from this particular horrendous crime, like many, many others in the country. 17 years later, Mr. Kicsko was taken from prison to hospital with a fairly serious illness that required a full and thorough examination. Mr. Kicsko had been convicted mainly on the basis that his sperm was left on the victim's clothing. The medical examination discovered that Mr. Kicsko did not have the capacity, nor did he ever have the capacity, due to the lack of male paraphernalia, to either rape somebody or to indeed produce any sperm whatever. When he was charged, he was aged 23, with a mental age and emotional age of 12 years old. Should the death penalty have been available then, this totally innocent in real terms child would have been executed and no one would have been any the wiser. He would have gone. Mr. Kicsko was released when he was 43. Only two people were ever convinced he was innocent, that one being his mother and the other his lawyer, and both had stood by him throughout, right to the end. If someone still believes in the death sentence after being aware of this case, then I only personally feel sorry for them. Mr. Kicsko died 18 months after being released, quickly followed, unfortunately, by his mother, and neither of them ever seen the light of the day of the £500,000 that the state had paid for hits that the state service. The death sentence had just ended 7 years prior to this, before this murder case, and there was much pressure throughout the country to bring the death penalty back on, based on that one single case. Now, if this boy had been executed, it would have been the state murdering a completely, in real terms, innocent child. So as they say in court, I rest my case.